You saw the title right. Today we are ranking 111 MCU characters from every single MCU movie. Main characters, side characters, villains, everything's here. This is going to take a while. If you're wondering, I'm just going to do short explanations for some of the characters. Like, I'm not going to go in depth on why I place Flash Thompson where I place Flash Thompson. But, the characters like the main Avengers and stuff, I will go into a little bit more detail. But if you want to see even more detail for every character, I did do a top 53. So I took a little bit more time on that. But I don't want to make you sit here for 2 hours watching me rank these characters, so I'm going to give brief explanations. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on any placements, if you disagree with them and why you disagree, and let's just get started. So without wasting much time, we're going to get right into our ranking, starting off with Iron Man. I don't have to explain this, but obviously an S tier, one of the best, actually I'm going to say the best story arc in movies, because we got to see him in so many. His character arc has developed so much, how he changed from the first movie. Even in the earlier movies where he's a complete asshole to most people, he's still one of your favorite characters just because he's so funny. But then he becomes this actually great guy, has his family, obviously the sacrifices. But this is really just a perfect example of an actor becoming a character. You see Iron Man on the screen, you believe that Tony Stark is a real person. He is the perfect casting choice, probably the best casting choice in all of movies, honestly. Like I said, he is just the embodiment of Tony Stark. Sadly, we don't get to see any more of this character, but hopefully his legacy still lives on, even with the Spider-Man stuff up in the air. Next up, we have Captain America, and this is another S tier. I can't rob him of that. Now, this is just a guy who doesn't really have the character arc in the same way that Tony does, but he just stays true to who he is. He has a character arc, but in a different way. I'll explain in a second. But this guy has stayed true to his morals and everything from the first movie. You see before he gets a super serum how he is just a great guy and just wants to fight for his country. That gets tested a little bit in Winter Soldier when he finds out who he can and can't trust. But all through it, he has his ideals and he sticks to them. You see this in Civil War. It's just a huge theme for his character. And they finally give him the payoff where he gets to go back and live the life that he deserves with Peggy in Endgame. Just a tremendous character. Once again, Chris Evans, fantastic casting, just like Robert Downey Jr. Our last of the big three here is Thor, and I swear I'm not going to be that easy with giving out S's, but these three all deserve S tier. We got to start off on a high note before I get some controversial opinions and people start hating me. But Thor, even through the first two movies aren't great, but you can still see that Thor is a good character in those two movies. Then it really comes out in Ragnarok. Well, his character is really funny in that movie and has a lot of good jokes in a different way than most of the other characters, so it works. Doesn't feel forced, but even though it's more on the humor side in Thor Ragnarok, you really get a lot of the motion and you see how much this guy has gone through. First of all, he has to fight his sister and how he overpowers. His powers are cool enough to put him up here S on his own, but all the loss this guy's gone through, you see it. Infinity War, Thor Ragnarok, all the movies before, and then in Endgame it hits him the hardest. He becomes the big Thorbowski, but this is a character who truly has lost so much. You can see where he's coming from. Now he has a new beginning with the Guardians. Hopefully that's good. Hopefully Thor 4 is good. I know people are saying that he's not going to be in it, but he is in that movie, so don't get that wrong, even though Jane is going to be female Thor. Just a tremendous character, finishing out our big three. Wanda Maximoff. Now, this character, from the beginning when we saw her, I think it was Age of Ultron's first movie she's in. Actually, it is. I'm not even questioning that. Age of Ultron, her character has changed a lot, and not just her accent, but her powers are some of the coolest. Her and Vision's relationship really had some interesting stuff, and the loss that she had to go through. And you see that loss still affecting her because she was gone for 5 years, but didn't feel like 5 years to her. So when she comes back, she's still just as mad as Thanos about that and almost kills him. Directors even confirmed that she could have. This is a character that I think has tons of potential for the future with her new show. The poster, if you guys seen that, looks insane. It's going to be crazy, that show. It looks like a 1980s sitcom, but with superheroes. So I'm not sure where they're taking that, but that should be great. Now, I do wish they kind of went heavier on the loss of Quicksilver, but they killed him off pretty fast, and the only effects are really in that movie. And then it goes to Vision is her new thing that is motivating her in these other movies. So definitely a good character. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness could bump her up higher. She goes in the A category for now. Now, speaking of Wanda, we now have Vision here, the second part of their show. I'm going to put him in the B category. Now, one of the coolest and best powers in the MCU, that's without a doubt one of the most overpowered things. That's why they probably had to kill him the way they did with the Infinity Stone being his only way to live. I do feel like this character was a little underutilized of how fast he kind of came in and out of the MCU. He was in I think like only three movies really, and now obviously he's gonna have his own show, so we'll see where that goes. But like I said, I liked him and Wanda and stuff. That was interesting. I'm not gonna lie, I preferred Jarvis almost more than I preferred Jarvis becoming Vision, but just a good character. There's nothing particularly great about him, but there's nothing bad either. So he's just gonna go and B. Like I said, him and Wanda really is bumping him up from just the average C category. Just realizing I'm gonna have to speed this up. There are so many characters here, I'm gonna have to go way faster. So next up we have Doctor Strange. This character is in the A+, and I think Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, if they do it right, definitely bumps him up. But right now, one of my favorite solo movies in the MCU with Doctor Strange. It kind of takes the regular MCU origin story template and kind of flips it on its head, and with all the cool effects and just a different vibe it gives you, even though it is kind of the generic formula, but it feels different enough for me. Now, he hasn't been in the MCU for too long. I mean, it's actually been like 3 years or something now because of how fast this time's going, but obviously him in Infinity War and Endgame, especially Infinity War because he's more on that, makes that movie as good as it is. You can't lie. If you take Doctor Strange out of that, his fight sequences, his thing with the whole sacrifice, it leads up to the huge sacrifice in Endgame when he gives up the Time Stone and tells Tony it's the only way. Just one of the better written characters and pretty consistent, and he still has that kind of like snark asshole persona as when he was a doctor, but he's definitely became a better guy, and it's going to be interesting to see where he goes. Next up we have Star-Lord, and this is going to be a controversial opinion, but I'm going to put him in D. It just doesn't work for me. I like Chris Pratt as an actor, but I just don't feel like this is a great character in my opinion. First of all, he relies on humor a lot, and I just find it targeted a lot towards younger audiences. With the Guardians movies, I find pretty funny, but him in particular, I just feel like they're just kind of low-hanging jokes. Like, even in Endgame, where he has the one where Gamora kicks him in the balls, like, I don't know. I just don't find him funny, and he relies a lot on humor. Obviously, his powers aren't the greatest, so that doesn't help. And the stuff with his dad and stuff in Guardians 2, I just didn't like that movie at all, or the plot, and that whole storyline was just the main storyline, so that didn't work for me. And I don't know, I just overall, maybe it's just a strong hatred from the Infinity War scene where he just ruins everything by not keeping his temper. And I know people say, that's his character, but in that moment, something has to go different. That was just such a convenience for the plot to let everything go how it is. And I know it's a movie, there has to be plot conveniences, but I don't know. I have something personal grudge against this character. I'm sure you're going to disagree, so you can let me know right now in the comments why I'm wrong, actually. Everybody that disagrees with this, let me know why I'm wrong, because I'm willing to accept that, and maybe I'll bump him up in a future ranking. I got to rewatch more movies again and see, but right now he's a D category. Next up we have Gamora, and I'm going to put her in the A category. I think she works perfectly with the Guardians, who are all, like I said, they rely heavily on humor, and she really doesn't. She's just the straight-faced one, tries to keep them all focused on task, and honestly, with Infinity War, her story got a lot stronger, and how she realizes how Thanos really cared about her, it really gave a lot to her character. And even in Endgame, how you see, even when she is evil, she wants to see what happens with her and Nebula, and she wants to have that sisterly relationship that they end up having. There's going to be a lot of interesting stuff that happened now that she ran off and Star-Lord's trying to find her. And I think she is definitely the best part of Star-Lord's character, her and Star-Lord's relationship. But other than that, just a very well-rounded character. Next up we have Drax. I'm going to put him in the C. He's a funny character. I can't deny that. C is not bad, by the way. Anything below C is really, I have something wrong with him. C is just average. I like them. There's nothing terrific about them, but I do enjoy the character. So he's in C. I like his humor. Like I said, he's very funny, has perfect comedic timing in these movies, and just good humor. But I do wish they went a little bit more in depth with him and Thanos killing his family, and that was a really big thing in the first Guardians. Then I feel like it kind of got pushed to the side in these Avengers and Guardians 2 movies. But like I said, I feel like there's a lot more there that they could have done to make him more than just the butt of the joke, kind of, or making the jokes. That's the direction they decided to go with it. I'm fine with it. Like I said, he's just a good character. He fits his role good, so he's in the C category. Next up we have Hawkeye. I'm putting him in B, and if his character was like he was in Endgame all around in all the movies, I would put him higher. But he starts off in Thor, and he's just kind of the agent. Avengers, he has some cool moments, but like he just kind of feels out of place, and not even just because of his powers, just like his whole character in general doesn't feel like he fits in great. There is some good stuff with his family, like I said, in Ultron and Endgame, that really gives his character a lot more just a lot more urgency, and it feels more real, and you can see why you should care for this character. But besides the movies where it really delves deeper into his life, and I'm sure they'll explain some stuff with the Black Widow movie about him and Black Widow's past, and obviously that whole thing, like I said, Endgame does Hawkeye perfectly, and hopefully the series can do him good too, but before that is the only reason he's in the B category. Next up we have Black Widow. This is an A+ character for me. She's been in so many MCU movies, and she has a great relationship with so many different heroes. Her and Tony obviously don't have the biggest friendship or anything, but their quips back and forth are pretty entertaining, and stuff in Iron Man 2 and later Avengers and stuff. Her and Captain America definitely share the best relationship. Just so you can see, it feels like a real friendship that you would have in real life, which is what you should have in movies, stuff that feels real. But she's just a character that complements so many other people so perfectly. And once again, another character that was elevated by Endgame that really makes you excited for her movie, even though she's dead. Still think the Black Widow movie in like Phase 2 would have been perfect, but maybe now that they have more movies under the belt, it will be fantastic and perfect. But in Endgame, when you can really see the effects, that she has no family, she doesn't know anything about the family she never had. It's nothing. Her whole family, past and future, is the Avengers, and it leads her to making the ultimate sacrifice. So this gets her an A+. Just a consistent character that has great chemistry with different actors and works perfectly in this universe. Moving on, we have Captain Marvel. I'm going to put her in the C category. Now, I don't have any huge issues with her, but there's just something off. Like I said, I think the writers and the directors that she's worked with, I really thought the Russos were going to do better for her, but they kind of went more on the side that I didn't like, of just the overly cocky, and not to the Tony Stark point of being like funny and likable while he's an asshole. She just kind of feels like an asshole. I get when you're like the most overpowered thing in the universe, it is easy to be cocky, I guess, but I just feel like they would make a better character of her if she was just, like I said, when she has her powers and she's just having fun and just learning about everything and actually destroying, and if she worked more as a team, maybe they'll get there eventually. There's going to be a sequel. It's not going to come for at least like 3 or 4 years, but hopefully the right director and stuff gets behind this character. I feel like there's so much potential here with obviously all the power she has and the lack of a past she has. That's something they should go deeper into, but they kind of forget about it at the end of Captain Marvel and then it never comes up again. But we haven't had too much of her yet, so I'm hopeful for better stuff in the future. Next up we have Pepper Potts, and this is a B for me. A character that just does good in her role. Like I said, now some of these side characters are going to be higher up, and it doesn't mean they're absolutely better than Captain Marvel, but how I do this is, how are they in the role they're supposed to be playing? Like, obviously Pepper Potts has a smaller role than Captain Marvel, but I think she does better in that role. So she perfectly complements Tony in the first Avengers and stuff. You can see how she doesn't want to be a part of this, and they eventually grow and their love, whatever, blah blah blah, they get together. And then once again you finally see the happy ending with Tony, and he gets a family with Pepper. Pepper is okay with the sacrifice. She knows how much he's done for everyone, and that he can finally rest. And it's the only way that he will be able to rest now that he is dead. Which sounds really dark, but I meant it in a good way. I don't really have a lot to say about this character, but just a character who does pretty good in the role they're given. And speaking of that, we have Okoye, who kind of in the same boat. Complements Black Panther perfectly. Just someone loyal to the throne and wants to see good for Wakanda. I'm going to start speeding this up, so that's all I have to say about Okoye. Happy Hogan is our next character, going up to a B solely because of Spider-Man movies. I can honestly maybe justify putting him in the A, but Homecoming, he's got kind of a smaller part where he's just trying to keep Peter down, keep him on the street level for Tony and S.H.I.E.L.D. That's good. I think that works good enough, but him and Spider-Man's chemistry in this series is great. I really hope a deal gets worked out between Disney and Sony so we get to see more of these two together, or Happy becomes in the Sony universe, because they work great together. Him and Tony have some okay moments, but like I said, Far From Home and Happy Hogan, Far From Home definitely does Happy Hogan the most justice, and you really get to see how much he cares for Peter actually. There's some interesting stuff with him and Aunt May that could go farther, but once again, we might not get more of Happy Hogan, so appreciate what we got, and hopefully a deal gets made. Moving on, we have Mark Ruffalo's Hulk or Bruce Banner. This character, I'm thinking A or A+. Let me talk through it, make some points, and then I'll justify my reasoning here. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't the biggest fan of Professor Hulk, which is the latest. We've obviously seen him in Endgame, but the more I watch it, the more I actually like the character, and I feel like it is the best way for this to go if we get some fight scenes with Professor Hulk, maybe. And I think Professor Hulk is honestly the best version of Hulk now that we've gotten this character. Don't want to put him down there, put him in A. The Hulk before is good, and Mark Ruffalo plays a scientist, like, nerdy, kind of, really out of place, doesn't want to do anything wrong. You see that in Ultron a lot. But it is an interesting character. Sadly, we've only got side missions and stories with him, but him in Thor Ragnarok and First Avengers, I think those are his best performances along with Endgame. Infinity War is kind of weird, the whole thing with him and Hulk, but other than that, pretty good character, well-rounded. I just wish we got to see more of him, and we really don't. And we probably never will, because I believe it's Sony or Warner Brothers, can't remember which one, that owns the rights to a Hulk full-on movie. Next up, we have War Machine, and I'm putting him in the A category, right next to Mark Ruffalo. Now, I know some people say, forget the other guy's name, but the guy who played War Machine here before Don Cheadle said that he was better for the role. And I can see where you're coming from, but this is definitely a different take on the character with Don Cheadle behind him. And it just works. Him and Tony have a real feeling friendship. His comedic timing is obviously great because Don Cheadle is a very funny actor. And he has some good emotional moments, like the stuff in Civil War. You can actually see how much people care and how much Tony cares especially. And that's really what makes these side characters get bumped up, like him and Happy, their connection with the bigger characters. And Don Cheadle's War Machine, or Rhodey here, is one of the characters that definitely has a pretty big impact in the small amount of time he's been on screen. Ant-Man is next on our list, and this might get disagreed with. I'm going to put Ant-Man in the S category. First of all, Paul Rudd's a great actor, so that helps a lot with this character. If it was anyone else, who knows how good this character would be, but Paul Rudd's amazing. Comedic timing and the humor for Ant-Man is great in all the movies he's been in. All the Avengers, Endgame was in Infinity War, and his 2 Ant-Man movies and Civil War. Very funny character. I just think Ant-Man's one of the more interesting characters, and I like him and Hope and all that, and I just find the connection between him, Hope, and then the connection now he has with Hank Pym, who really didn't like Ant-Man at first, but now he does, and I thought that was great. It's smaller scale stories, literally, and not meant to be a joke, but literally small scale stories. But that's a good thing for the MCU. It kind of takes you out of the whole cosmic realm thing, and it just puts you in this little town or this neighborhood or city, follows these couple characters, and it's just small scale stuff, but it works perfectly for the MCU, and it's all because of Paul Rudd and Ant-Man. He portrays this character and the father so great. I really hope we get to see another Ant-Man, but nothing's been confirmed, and he's filming Ghostbusters now, so not looking very likely for at least the near future. Next we have Rocket Raccoon, and might be another controversial pick here. He's going an A+ for me. I just think this character is just like Gamora in a completely different way, but where his role with the Guardians is perfect. First of all, he starts off, he's just this asshole thief, and even in Guardians 2, he's still like that. But then in Avengers Infinity War, him and Thor their moments are some of the best moments in that movie. He's obviously funny, but then you start to see more of the serious side of Rocket. Then once he goes through all the loss in Endgame, you really feel for him, and you're watching a stuffed raccoon that got animated, but the emotions feel real. Bradley Cooper does a great job of making this character what he is, and like I said, the loss that he goes through, you can really feel how much it's affected him. Even in the small amount of screen time he gets in Endgame, it really works for me. And I just want to say, I know I'm mentioning Endgame a lot, it's just because it's the most recent, and a lot of these characters' best moments are in it, but I am basing this off the entire MCU. It's just, like I said, the most recent, so that's what's coming to mind. Here we have Falcon, and Falcon's going to go, I'm going to say A, and his best performance, I think, is Winter Soldier, which is his first movie, but that's where you really start to see him and Captain America's bond that grows on from there go, and you get to see how much of a good guy he really is, and he's trying to help these people who are struggling, and like I said, he's just a good guy. He wants to help out. He's willing to risk his life for it. Then Civil War, he has some great moments, great action moments, even though he's not like the most souped up guy. All he has is a wingsuit and guns. But he has some very cool action moments, just good chemistry with everyone. Anthony Mackie's very funny, so obviously that comes through in his character. Very good character here. Like I said, fits perfectly in the role he's supposed to play beside Captain America. It'll be interesting to see where him and our next guest here, Bucky Barnes, go. And Bucky is going to go A+ because I'm not ranking heroes in this one. I'm ranking the character. And if you count Bucky's villain stuff, the villain part of him in Winter Soldier and the beginning of Civil War is some of the best stuff in the MCU. It just works so well, the connection between him and Cap. You can see it. You feel for this character that's been brainwashed over and over again. And he decides, it's best if he gets put down in the cryo chamber or whatever in Wakanda. And just another character, him and Cap's bond is so good. Going to be really interesting to see where this Captain America or the new Captain America, and Winter Soldier show goes here. I think that has the potential to be the best MCU show, honestly. They just feel like them and Sharon Carter's in it. I feel like that's the perfect heroes to be in a TV show. All right, I'm going to start to go really fast now. I've said that like 5 times until we get to another main character like Black Panther there. We're going to speed through this. Mantis, this is the first F tier character for me. I just don't think she works. I don't find her funny at all. I just find her weird, which I know she's supposed to be. Like, the whole thing in Guardians 2, her whole point is pretty much she doesn't tell Peter about his dad that she knew, and she gets called ugly by Drax. I just don't think there's a lot to this character. Maybe she can become more, but like I said, another character in the Guardians that relies on humor that I just don't find funny. I'm very split on the Guardians, as you can tell, but she goes in the F tier. Groot goes in the B tier. He's a tree, but you still feel for him. His connection with Rocket is real, even though he only says 3 words. He has a sacrifice in Guardians that should feel corny because it's a tree saying we are Groot, but it just works once again. Some reason, that's just how I can say this character. It somehow just works. So he's a B character, better than average. Moving on, we have Nebula. And I think Nebula's honestly earned this A spot with Endgame and Infinity War. Now, in the Guardians movies, I wasn't the biggest fan of her, and the feud with Gamora and stuff, I didn't find that all that interesting. But when you get to see her as a good guy, and then obviously she goes through a lot with Thanos and Infinity War and gets tortured and all this terrible stuff. And then in Endgame, she's trying to help out the best she can, and then you really feel for the character, and she ends up killing her past self, which I don't know how that works exactly, but she does. And just another perfect part of the Gamora character, their relationship is great, and they both benefit each other here, so they're both up in the A category. Moving on, we have Cherie. Nothing too bad about this character. Once again, though, a character that relies on humor. She's the comedic relief in the Black Panther movie, and I just don't find her that funny, really, but that's okay, just not my humor. And she is really smart, but I wish we got to see more of that. We get to see a little bit in Infinity War, and then it gets cut short because Vision has to get off the table, so that gets cut short. Just see, hopefully Black Panther 2 expands on this. And here we have characters I can't remember the names of. So first up we have Evil Captain Marvel guy. Evil Captain Marvel guy goes in C. Nothing bad about him. He's just there, kind of. I don't know. He's not the best bad guy. The twist isn't the greatest. There's nothing especially bad about him, like I said, so I can't put him lower than this, but not too interesting. Kind of just the generic first movie villain that's not that bad, but I don't know. I guess it's supposed to be like, oh, he had a connection with Carol, and then, oh no, he turned on her, and he was actually evil, and she was working for evil the whole time, but I don't care. C for him. Now we have Computer Intelligence Lady, F. This is just weird. I don't understand. Like, I understand what's happening. I just don't think this is the right actor. I don't think actress. I don't think this just gets portrayed right. These scenes feel like they go on way, way, way too long for me, and just not great. Next up, we have Maria Rambeau's mom, who I don't know her name, but Mrs. Rambeau, we're going to call her. She goes, I'm going to give her a B. I think she works really well. First of all, she gets her best friend back, who she thought was dead. Like, she goes through a lot. You see her connection with her daughter and how she decides to actually go on the mission. I just think she's just a good part of this movie that's overall average. Next up, we have Monica Rambeau. I'm not sure what I said before, but it wasn't Monica. I'm just going to put her in C. It's a kid. She has a fine role. She has good chemistry with Brie Larson, it seems, but like, she really didn't have much of a role in the movie. She's just kind of there. She is going to have a bigger influence on the MCU later, but right now she's a C. Moving on, we have Black Panther. I'm going to put him in A+, and it's not because of his own movie only. Civil War, I think, is this character's best performance, and it probably will be. Hopefully Black Panther 2 blows me away, but I think this works the best when he is just laser focused on Bucky and revenge for his father. And then obviously you see that he spares the guy because he doesn't want him to just have the easy way out and kill himself. In the end, Zemo I'm talking about of Civil War. So I think Civil War is this guy's best performance. Infinity War, he had some cool moments with him and Cap leading the charge and obviously helping them with Wakanda and all that. So just a great character. Can't wait to see more. Next up we have T'Chaka. I'm going to go in B. He has a pretty, small role, but pretty effective role too. Not on the screen a lot, but in Black Panther, obviously he affects Black Panther's decisions a lot for what he has to do with the kingdom. And Civil War, he charges all the stuff I just said. Like, the whole point of Civil War and Black Panther in that movie is his point of getting revenge on Bucky for killing his father. So this guy affects a lot in that movie, which I love, so I'm going to put him in B. Now we have Mbaku going in B again. Just a good character, good supportive character who you kind of feel like you want to see more of. Once again, we haven't seen the most, but he decides to help, obviously, a lot of times, and just a good character that could be good in the future. I'm speeding this up, though. Next up, we have another guy I don't remember the name of, so he's going in C. Just like I said, nothing bad, nothing wrong. We're going fast. Next up, we have Ross here, and I'm going to put him in B. I really like this character. Once again, Civil War, he's in a little bit, but Black Panther's his main thing. I just think he has good chemistry with everyone in that movie, really. He just fits his role perfectly, and I really just want to see more of this character. Next up, we have Klaw, who's in Age of Ultron and Black Panther. B, sadly, this character's dead. I feel like this is one of the most entertaining villains in the MCU. Obviously, he's not one of the most impactful or evil or anything like that, but he is very entertaining every time he's on the screen. Next up, we have Killmonger. Now, I get that his motivations and stuff are good. I think this villain is one of the most overhyped. I don't think that makes him bad. I just think people put him up as the best villain in the MCU or right next to Thanos. I just think he's a good villain that works in the story, and he does have good ideas, but he does everything wrong about it, and obviously he's a villain, so he can't do everything right, or else you'd like him more than Black Panther, but I just think this is kind of an overhyped villain. He's just good. Wasp is going to go in the A category. Once again, this is the part of the character fitting their role perfectly. Her and Ant-Man in the first two Ant-Man movies work great together. Their chemistry is great. She has her own way of comedic timing and good humor alongside Paul Rudd. She's kind of like the Gamora role, where she's more serious and focused and a skilled fighter, and Paul Rudd's Ant-Man is just kind of thrown into this. But great character, and like I said, I really hope we get to see another Ant-Man movie. Ghost, gonna go in the C tier. Really just haven't seen too much of this character that makes us want to put her higher. The whole thing with the ending where she's just focused on doing anything it is to live, and then Michelle Pfeiffer puts her hands on her and she's just fine. I mean, I don't know. Nothing great about her, but like I said, nothing bad. So just an average character. But moving on, we have Hank Pym, who's gonna go in B. I like him and Paul Rudd's chemistry. Like I said, they work really well together. Their dynamic about how he really doesn't like him, but he has to work with him. This is his only chance for everything really in the first two movies. Him and Michelle Pfeiffer's relationship seems like it is good. We probably won't see much more of that, even if there is an Ant-Man movie, but just a good character. Next up, we have Michael Pena's Luis. This character, I'm putting in A. Once again, this is how they do in their role. I'm not saying he's better than, Hawkeye in every category, but in the small side character role, he is an A. Like, most entertaining guy on the screen every time he's on there. Obviously, his storytelling is one of the best things, but I think the truth serum sequence is one of the funniest things in that movie of a pretty much pure comedy, Ant-Man and the Wasp. I think he has the funniest moments. Like I said, every time he's on the screen, he captures your attention. Great side character, A category for him. Now we're back to the characters I don't remember the name game here. So, dad of Paul Rudd's ex-wife in Ant-Man. I call him Scott Lang because people are probably mad I'm calling him Paul Rudd. He's a C. I mean, I like how he's not an asshole. Like, he doesn't have that stereotypical asshole to the ex guy. He's helpful, and he actually likes Scott. And you just see that he's a good guy. He's trying to do the best for him and his daughter and his family there. So, just a fine side character that you really don't see a lot of. And even though I really like these characters, the ex-con members, I have to just put them in C. I can't put them much higher. They have some funny moments on their own, but like I said, they're not really that great of characters. There's not much of an impact, and they're not like Luis tier. They are funny though in the movie, and just C category. Next up, we have Thanos, and this is going to be our first villain in the S tier. Obviously the most fleshed out backstory we've gotten, because we pretty much build up all the way through Infinity War, so you already know that this character's coming, and then they go and focus solely on this character and his history and his goals, and they pull it off. It all works great, and you really care about, well, you don't care about him personally, but you see where it's coming from. You know that he's wrong. You know he's a psychopath, but you can see his goals, and it just works great. Obviously, he's given us some of the coolest sequences and fight scenes in the MCU, and like I said, he's really smart and powerful without the Infinity Stones, and that's what makes him great. He's not just a brute or not just smart, he's a perfect mix of both. Moving on, we have Kalos. This is a B category for me. I think he's got some funny moments and some good character moments with his family in Captain Marvel. Obviously, there's going to be some interesting stuff in the future, depending on how the Spider-Man stuff gets worked out. But even if that doesn't get worked out, he'll probably be in future movies, but obviously at the end of Far From Home. Spoilers here if you haven't seen it somehow. He is Nick Fury for that entire movie, you find out. So they could definitely do more of that, even if he's not in future Spider-Mans, which would be a shame, but he will be in the MCU, and just a good character, and I love his accent as Talos. Moving on, we have Mysterio. He's going in A+. Jake Gyllenhaal gives his all in this role. If you never saw Jake Gyllenhaal on anything, you just saw this, you believe this man is Mysterio. He fully plays a guy that is completely wrong, but believes he's right, and he's doing what's right for the world. The intensity he brings to this, while also being like this smart, planned out guy, one step ahead of Peter in every sense of the way, besides the final battle. But even in the end, when he loses, he still is a step ahead of Peter, because he manipulates the footage and makes it look like Peter's evil and reveals his identity. Just a great villain portrayal from one of the most iconic villains in the comics, and I can't wait to see more of him. Once again, hopefully we either get these same characters or Spider-Man back in the MCU, because if we don't get to see more of Mysterio, that's a shame. So I decided to cut this into 2 parts, so make sure to come back tomorrow. I'm going to have a part 2 upload, going to be about the same time, so make sure to leave a like, and I will update the description and the videos here so you can click on it right here.